who's to blame at Liverpool? So, I mean, there's a lot of people going at the manager. There's a few people going at players.
I think there's a few contenders.
There's a few contenders because that's 3 losses in a row. It was the second time under Slot you'd lost 2 in a row, and now they've done 3 in a row for the very first time. So, first of all, where are you at with it? Are you incredibly frustrated, or is this a blip? Because people are saying that City have these blips when they win the year. Everyone has a dip, but you've just had it now.
Yeah, well, I suppose you could say, at least it's happened now, so it doesn't happen again. But there's no guarantee it doesn't still happen later on in the season. It's so difficult to comprehend because of the start that we had. It's difficult for us to be, 10 games in all comps into this season now and be really disappointed, considering the dramatic, not even the performances haven't been great all season, but 7 out of 10 of the results have been.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to sit here after 10 and feel like I've been shortchanged a little bit because of the points on the board so far, because of the fact that we're 1 point now behind Arsenal. But if Liverpool hung on and didn't, hook it away for a throw-in against Palace, if we didn't concede a 50-50 penalty, if we didn't concede another last-minute, goal at Stamford Bridge, then we could be saying, well, it's 3 draws in a row, it's not great, shooting boots are not to be found. But fine margins as they are in football, we lost all 3, so it's something that has to stop now. I'm actually really excited that there's a nice international break coming up where I don't have to be, or my happiness or my mood doesn't have to be dictated by 11 men plus probably 3 or 4 off the bench, and the manager, of course, is included in that. A break now to reset. I mean, there's so many signs of fatigue, especially in the last 3 games, which I don't understand. I know McAllister didn't have much of a pre-season, Isak didn't either, but the top names I'm looking at that basically won Liverpool the league last season, I'm looking at Mo Salah, I'm looking at Konate, I'm looking at McAllister, all well off it at the minute. And if I'm honest, I could probably name you 3 players at a push who have actually done well for Liverpool this season, and they would be Alisson, because without him, I think we'd be in a way worse position. Dominic Szoboszlai, who's been Mr. Versatile. In every defeat, he's actually the one that's still trying right up until the end to cross it or do something with the ball. And then probably Chiesa, maybe Ekitike. But the rest, I mean, Doyle and I tried to form our strongest 11 on form and fitness right now, and we're struggling to do it. And with the money that Liverpool have spent, you would think that all of those should just be filled up automatically, right? Those the informed teams and informed players. But yeah, we're going through a very frustrating time right now. To be a fan, this is when you need to back your team and get behind them instead of throwing the toys out the pram. I've seen a lot of people overreacting and saying things that are clearly just to get numbers or whatever, and that's their thing. I don't. I'm not. Be mad at the game, not the players, right? But I do think there's this mad overreaction a little bit. Yeah. And hopefully, with United at home, it represents a great opportunity to boost the mentality back up before we've got another really hard 3 or 4 away games coming up as well. So I'm not worrying too much. I think, yes, it's a blip, but you don't want the blip to start spreading into 4 or 5.
I
hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so, mate. But there's a lot of bad things going on right now, so
some people
we
in
need to
chat
sort
saying
them out.
Congratulations though, so the people are being nice. Kyle saying nice, congratulations, mate. Now Laurie, last night we had a bit of a blockbuster show, FCM. Again, if you've not seen it, it's rolling on Samsung TV on the GFN Soccer TV channel. It's on YouTube if you've not seen it. And Fuad was saying that he's seen so many people online going at Arne Slot, but then he's saying, sit there and name me any players that have turned up. Like Salah's not the same Salah, McAllister's not the same McAllister. So how are you going at the manager? Or do you think there is some tactics in there as well that are sort of concerning you?
Well, what I would say right from the outset is that the buck always stops with the manager. I mean, a couple of weeks ago when Arsenal had, flattered to deceive in a couple of games, Arteta was getting it. It wasn't necessarily the players. So the managers, unfortunately, are always going to come in for a lot of blame. But having said that, when the team is performing, then they get a lot of the praise. One thing I would say, and I'd be interested to hear Alex's thoughts on this, is that Arne Slot, who, by the way, I am an admirer of, I've given him enough credit last season, when, to all intents and purposes, you pretty much overperformed, didn't you? You think about it, spent, 12.5 million on one player, that was about it. And they went on and won a title with some ease, dare I say.
10 points, compared to but it should have been more.
Yeah, compared to this season, where they've spent nearly 450 million and have had a let's be honest, the last couple of games have been very disappointing. But one thing I've seen from Arne Slot, and I have given him a lot of credit before, is that I've noticed that he's starting to go down the route of blaming time added on and excuses here, excuses there. And I thought, a little bit disappointing, man. I want to hear you be a little bit more, either you're going to give the teams you've been playing some more credit, or, attribute your losses down to stuff that you have not been doing. Start blaming referees and time added on. I thought, a little on the churlish side for me. I'm a bit disappointed in Arne Slot for that, because I always had him down as one of the real ones. In fact, I remember it was not so long ago, Alex, me and you, and I was saying to you, I gave him credit for the way he handled the Ekitike sending off. When he was real, he came out and said, look, no, you bang out of order, you shouldn't have done that. And you know what I mean? So for him to do that on Saturday, I was like, come on, bro. Like, you guys have...
What was the exact line you reckon you found kind of not offence?
There's been a few
the
games
receipts
now where they've lost and he's made it. Huh?
He's going for receipts. He's the HMRC of
he
the
just
sports.
Time added on and stuff like that. I just thought, come on.
I think his thing at the weekend was... the Galatasaray penalty probably isn't a penalty, but then is it Szoboszlai or is it Isak gets a bit of a slap in the face at one point?
Yeah,
he said, if that's midweek, we get that one. And then Crystal Palace is
he makes
97, they let them take the throw in, but then there's been other games where they've called it short, and it's just the inconsistency, I think, is what he's going at.
Yeah, I think when you look at time added on, it's always a minimum, isn't it? So it's a minimum of 5 minutes, and then whatever happens after that, gets
But you guys have been the
the
beneficiary of time added.
I know,
Until Liverpool score, whatever the year.
Yeah, well, at the minute it's until the other team score, because we keep conceding last-minute winners in the Prem. But I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with him. That's his prerogative. He can. He's obviously got like his team showing him like, look, this is the minute they scored. This was how much was added on. But at the end of the day, you've got to defend it. You've got to defend. You can't kick that ball out at Palace. I mean, the game's literally done. Right?
That's what I would prefer to hear him say.
When you analyse the urgency or actually lack of urgency from the Palace players to take that throw, everyone's happy with a draw. We shake hands, everyone walks away. We both get a point. With the Galatasaray one, he did blow up a little bit early. But again, if you don't take your chances in the game, these are the things that you resort to. What's the right word? Not to cover you up, but it's almost like if we'd won that 3-1, who's talking about the added time?
Well, this is what I'm saying, because
earlier in the season, or too much
when
of it.
you played Newcastle, for example, and you got the late goals, it was
good. That was 11 minutes added on. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the stuff at Newcastle is because they, it's barely in play up at Newcastle. The stats prove that. But again, it's a little bit petty, because if we'd won those games, you wouldn't hear anything about added time. But I think when you're a manager at a club like Liverpool and you lose a couple of games in a row, the journalists and the media, and he knows this as well, they're out to get you. They want to trip you up. Arteta's had it himself where every kind of thing is analysed. I remember the one about the ball, and they kind of edited the clip to make it look like So you have to be careful what you say, because they misconstrue you, but also at the same time, do your job on the pitch, and then you don't have these headaches off the pitch.
Yeah, and there's a few people in the chat making the same point. So Uber Steve says the only reason Liverpool last season won the league was because of Klopp. Slot still got to prove himself, and then E54 Ultra comes in and says that was Klopp's team. They were self-motivated, nothing to do with Slot. So my question is there anything with Slot specifically that's concerning you? Because there's a clip that's going around at the minute of sort of someone throws the ball. I think Sanchez throws the ball over Salah's head, and it's immediately to Cucurella, and he's beaten your whole press. And then you've signed Kirkez, who's the best fullback in the league, maybe at bombing up and down, but then he's tucking into a back three. Is that tactical things, or is this like you've got to learn that role? That's how we're playing at Liverpool.
I think the squad available compared to the squad available last season is so different. So you have to come up. You can't just have, and we've seen this with Amorim, we've seen it with how many managers who stick to their system. Slot will have to adapt to his own formations that were working last year, and now we're going to have to go. I think Slot in this international break needs to sit down. I'm not sure about getting the old tactics board out, because that gets laughed at.
Well, Amorim at Grimsby.
Even though he's a head coach at Liverpool, so earn your money, find a new formation, find a new way to surprise teams that you're playing against. Because, like you say, Cucurella in his interview after said, we knew that if we got it past Salah, we'd broken the trap, so we can progress from that angle of the pitch. We can't really afford players to be telling the whole world what works against Liverpool. So it's about going back to basics almost. Can we play with a two up front? Can we play with, three in midfield. Of the three that are in midfield at the minute, are they on form? Probably not. Do we have to change things up a little bit? Tactically, I mean, maybe not tactically, but personnel. I think when you bring on Endo, I know Konate got injured, but when you bring on Endo and put him in midfield and you leave Gravenberch at centre-back, that's a little bit of an issue. I think there's been cries to probably drop Mo Salah. He did it for Galatasaray. He's probably going through the worst period of his Liverpool career right now.
Yeah, and I think we might actually have a graphic to cue on screen if we can get that one up, because Dead Cert's in the chat as well says Salah doing no off-the-ball work looks a lot worse when he's not scoring every game. And you can see there on screen his last 6 ratings in the Premier League. It's a lot of orange ratings. There's a red one in there. I mean, he's walked away with a few goals and assists in those games. I think he got the assist at Newcastle, right? For the winner, but the general performance is it what does that? How can you sign the contract? Because I mean, Arsenal fans, Laurie, we've known with Aubameyang, signs the contract, falls off the face of the earth. I don't think it's that with Salah, but
no, it's not been previously. No. But we do also factor into the equation that Salah is now getting on a bit now in football terms. Yeah, so I think it might be a little unfair to expect him to produce the same running stats, for example, that he would have produced.
Because he said to Slot last season, he said, he told him what he wanted to do. He was like, look, I'm not going to run as much this year. If you want me to be that kind of machine up front who's getting you 20 assists and 30 goals, I'll do that.
Yeah, don't ask me to sit
back. But don't ask me. And I think because of the personnel that are left that he was so used to playing with, you look at Trent on that right-hand side, how many times... And Trent was injured a lot last season as well. Let's not pretend like Trent played every minute for Liverpool last year. Conor Bradley, that was his breakthrough season really last year. He's missing that creativity. He's probably missing linking up. I know he was much maligned at times, but actually him and Darwin Núñez had a great personal interlinking record together. Diaz, who has shone already at Bayern Munich, he's missing him a bit. They would interchange a lot. So it's going to take more time, but how much time do we have? I know we say it's a blip, but if this carries on, for the next, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 games, then it does become a prolonged
your
issue.
game after the international break against United is a massive
and then it's
game.
Frankfurt away, and then I think it's
you've got Brentford at some point
away after that, which is always tough, and then after that I think it's Villa away and then City away. And you compare that to Arsenal's next few games, there could be a bit of a shift here. But you see how quickly things change. Last week, Liverpool had a chance to go 8 points clear of Arsenal. We're now 1 behind them. So things change so rapidly in football. In 2 weeks, we could be sitting here saying, Liverpool are a point ahead of Arsenal. It's so early yet. And that's my kind of saving grace at the minute. If we were in March, April, I'd be really worried in terms of that push, that motivation to go and finish off the season. Another thing that I don't think has been mentioned too much recently. I know Liverpool on the pitch have been poor, but Virgil alluded to it in an interview. And actually, an article came out after the first game of the season when we beat Bournemouth 4-2. I think it was the Mirror who said, listen, it's great Liverpool winning last minute, but at some point across the season, the grief of losing their very close teammate will actually come through. Now, look, I wanted to make this extremely clear. I am never going to use that as an excuse for Liverpool losing. But one thing that is true, and Virgil alluded to the other day, is everyone deals with grief differently. It's a time thing. It's a healing thing. Every single person. I mean, we've all lost people in our lives, and we've been affected by it. And maybe you don't really truly process it for a year or 2 years after. What we need to remember is these lads were with Diogo for every day for the last 5 years, and we've lost games recently because we've been poor on the pitch. But mentally, in kind of dark times, you think, wow, how am I dealing with this? They've had no time to deal with it. They're all at his funeral. They had to go bang straight to Hong Kong. I was with the team. There was a press conference that I was at, and they came out before and said no mention of it. So it's almost like they've been holding on to this grief. They're not really allowed to publicise it, or the club maybe don't want them to. I think in a public space, maybe you don't want to talk about that. It's a really difficult subject to talk about. But I think mentally, at some point across the season, if it isn't already now, that's such a big thing that's happened to these lads, and they've all got to move on and try and do their best in life. But when something like that happens, it's very difficult.
Yeah, and you make an amazing point as well, because a lot of people have sort of been pointing at Salah interview, the Van Dijk interview, and saying, well, you've lost a couple of games, is it catching up? But it is really important to say that after the Bournemouth game, I think Salah looks really he just scored in the last minute and he was despondent. So it is a thing that's gonna, over the course, and again, like you say, no one knows how people deal with that, when they're going to deal with it, whether it's just going to come out the blue somewhere and hit you like a ton of bricks. So it is really important to definitely keep on that. But look, you've been sort of talking about Liverpool all day. You've done the weekend roundup show earlier. Again, if you haven't seen it, it's
Cop TV this morning.
Yeah, you Cop TV as well. It's all rolling on Samsung. If it's on YouTube, go check it out. You've been cooked. You've analysed.
Do you reckon it's the biggest cooking ever on DR?
Boy,
this morning.
I mean,
probably
look,
the most
about
deserved
35 minutes, Jack.
If anyone's in the chat that's obviously
that up.
If anyone in the chat has seen the weekend roundup this morning, put it in the chat if you think it is the biggest cooking ever.
I'm about to have a nap, mate.
It's up there. I saw you outside, just sat with a packet of crisps or something, just getting your thoughts together. But look, we've criticised Liverpool enough, Laurie. I know you're having a great time, but we should probably move on to Chelsea.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do we? Must we? Okay.
Final thoughts.
No. The one thing I would say about Liverpool this season is that something that is fairly obvious, but not too many people have mentioned it. Is that where I will give Liverpool a little bit of slack is that when you last season the manager won that trophy. To his credit, they just brought in the one player, Chiesa. This time they've spent a lot of money, brought in quite a few players, and players will invariably take time to settle. We're seeing it at the moment with a couple of our guys. Unfortunately for Liverpool, some of your main guys, namely Wirtz, has not settled in as you would have expected. So there is going to be that time where he's got to acclimatise and get to grips with the Premier League. Now, for every week that goes and he's not producing, not playing well, the pressure builds. So, there is that.
Yeah, the pressure definitely builds because of the price tag, because there's less patience when you pay that much money. Like I said earlier, if this was 30 games in, I'd be beside myself. But I think you have to zoom out a little bit of the timeline of the season and go, right, it is just October. We've got 2 weeks to reset. If it carries on, we can definitely talk about there being a big issue to come here. But teething problems, I think you could maybe say that. You could say still working out what the best system is, still working out the best personnel. I assume and I hope and I touch wood that it clicks and, Liverpool do find their way again. But at the minute, I think there's a lot of thinking to do. It's less about, just doing it. It's a lot of thinking to do. How do we approach different games and have people worked us out? What do we need to... What's the needle mover here? Who do we swap? Because like I said, if you're 10 to 10 games into a season through injury, form, fitness, and you don't know who your strongest 11 is, which I don't think we do at the minute, that could be a problem.
That is why the spending of money, they call it the blessing and the curse. Because
poison chalice.
Yeah, because the one thing that Slot did have last season was a settled side that knew each other, knew the game plan, went out there, was able to execute. This season's a little different. You're introducing players. I mean, for example, even Isak's come in already. Even though he's played in the Premier League, even though he's one of the best number 9s in the world, still going to take time for him to acclimatise to the way you play. It's different. So things like that, it's going to take time. So we'll see.